When we were stuck inside, we wondered, would we face the plague of gun violence again? Will we fear gathering in our schools and our churches again? Will we be shot for the color of our skin again? But a fight for justice forced us out, filled the empty streets. Black Americans are still being killed for being black in America. The pandemic hitting Black, Indigenous, and people of color disproportionately has only worsened the epidemic of gun violence in those same communities. Because it's clear, the fight for racial justice is still on, and we won't live without it. In Colorado, he stood against hatred, but in Wisconsin, he carried a Confederate flag. In Arizona, she stood for her patients, but in Michigan, she carried a swastika. They bought guns in record numbers, but we took it to the streets. So when we leave our homes this time, will the people carrying weapons of war and banners of hatred decide our future again? Or will we stand up and demonstrate our power? Our power means we demand all gun sales will be licensed. Our power means we demand weapons of war be banned for good. Our power means lawmakers must listen. Our power means we refuse to watch black people be murdered in the streets. Our power means we refuse to fear for our lives. We refuse to live without justice. It's our power, and we will use it.
Hi everyone, we're so excited to see you here tonight. My name is Claire, my pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the co-state director of March for Our Lives, Michigan. Welcome to the Detroit stop on the March for Our Lives, Vote for Our Lives, Our Power in the States tour. We're super excited again to have you here. Our power is in our vote, and March for Our Lives has always emphasized the importance of voting, but now with a major and consequential election coming up, we're focusing all of our efforts on making sure we elect candidates who support gun violence prevention. Tonight we'll be talking about gun violence and its intersections with police violence and environmental racism. Now I'll pass it off to Jayanti.
Hi everyone, my name is Jayanti. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am also the co-state director of March for Our Lives, Michigan. I am so excited to lead today's panel with Claire. First, it is my honor to introduce Representative Rashida Tlaib, who is representing Michigan's 13th congressional district.
Hey everyone, it's Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. Thank you so much for your incredible courage to support a movement where we can all be safe in our country. I know that you know voting is critical to this movement, but I hope that you're working your block, which means your family, your friends, folks that really rely on you for information, rely on you to encourage and inspire them to vote. I know that when I vote, it's not just the names on the ballot, it's issues that are important to me, to my family, to my community, and my district. It's the right to breathe. It's the right to be able to thrive in our country. And so much of that has to do with us showing up for each other. And when we not only show up at marches and protests, but we have to show up and vote. When we do, we are each other. We are saving lives. So I hope you all join me in encouraging and making our blocks, because we know that doing nothing right now isn't an option.
Thank you so much, Representative. Now we would like to thank our partners, We the People, Detroit Heal Detroit, DAM, 482 Forward, and Rock the Vote, along with their representatives for coming to our panel today. First, I would like to kick it off to Brianna, who is representing Detroit Heals Detroit.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brianna Donald. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the Vice President of Detroit Heals Detroit. Detroit Heals Detroit was founded by Detroit youth for Detroit youth and exists to foster healing, justice, for Detroit youth, in which they are able to transform their pain into power. With the goal to combat trauma, we use healing-centered engagement to share our greatest vulnerabilities with the rest of the world, while simultaneously working to dismantle oppressive systems for the marginalized Detroit youth. Our overall goal is to build access for our peers, access to healing, access to literacy, access to liberation, access to new possibilities. At Detroit Heals Detroit, we believe that you cannot truly combat trauma in individuals if we are not combating the systems that treated the trauma in the first place. So our organization aims to do that as well. Healing and well-being are fundamentally political as it is clinical. This means that we have to consider the ways in which policies are and practices are political decisions harm young people. Ending gun violence is going to take a collective effort of the community and a hard look at the legacy of harm and trauma in marginalized communities. All in all, the movement must be youth-led. One of the immediate actions young people can take is to vote in this election cycle. We can elect leaders at every level of government who will listen to Black and brown people, take gun violence seriously, and use the power of their offices to end the pandemic. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brooke Solomon. I'm 18 years old, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And for the past 2 years, I was the chair of Detroit Area Youth Uniting Michigan, which is a youth-led social justice nonprofit founded in 2018, actually after the Detroit March for Our Lives, by a collective of young organizers. DAM fights for accountability from our leaders, justice for our communities, and a seat at the table for all marginalized youth. In the past, DAM has organized around things such as gun violence, environmental justice, and educational justice for Black and brown Detroiters and everyone in Metro Detroit. We have hosted a DPS count day strike and water testing in Detroit neighborhoods, adult ally trainings, direct action camps, as well as in the past few months, working with the COVID-19 Youth Task Force to support young people in Metro Detroit. And I'm so excited to be here representing DAM, and I know we're going to do some good work. Thank you.
Peace, y'all. My name is Tina Rowland. Pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm here on behalf of two organizations tonight, but I'll start with We the People Michigan. So We the People Michigan, I like to think of us as the engine that facilitates learning across our state, but also builds long-term deep organizing infrastructure across our state. And I believe our organization also fosters and staples long-lasting alliances across our state. One of the things that we take pride in making sure that everybody understands is that we are all in an ecosystem together. And so that's why it's so important for our work across Michigan to be intertwined, because ultimately at the end of the day, all of the work that we do in different places across our state is all connected and it all makes a difference. And so now going on to 482 Forward. So I am education organizer for 482 Forward. And 482 Forward is a collective of organizers and researchers and youth, and we have HEAT teams and NEAT teams and BEAT teams, which is our education action teams that we have in the neighborhoods. But as far as our overall statewide strategy, we have a coalition called the Michigan Education Justice Coalition. And right now we have what we call vote counselors who are out getting people registered to vote, educating them on their rights to vote, what it looks like to vote, all of those good things that we know are so important when it comes to the upcoming elections. And I think that's it. Bye, y'all.
Hello, Detroit. I am Jasmine Jones, and I'm the organizing director for Rock to Vote. I am so excited to be here and join Power in the States. This is the most important election of our lifetime, and what happens in Michigan will determine our country's future. We need to be our own heroes. It's time to step up and organize our communities. It takes all of us to mobilize family and friends and show them why this election is critical. Now more than ever, young people are energized and taking on issues that matter to them most. We are facing a time in our nation like never before. Voices are being heard, they're speaking louder, and showing up at the front lines of our democracy. That's why we are all gathered here today. For the past 30 years, Rock the Vote has been the building political power amongst young people, and for the first time now, make their voices heard. Since its founding, Rock the Vote has processed more than 13 million voter registrations and consistently turned out its voters more than 30 points above the national youth average, with approximately 60% voting for the first time. Millennials and Gen Z comprises nearly 40% of the electorate. Whether you vote and who they vote for in 2020 will determine the direction of our communities and our country. That's why this year Rock the Vote is mobilizing young people to talk to their loved ones about voting. The relational organizing program is led by Rock the Vote state coordinators and ambassadors across the country. We're creating a space to come together, bring our friends, and learn about ways to empower each other, including our family and our neighbors. That's what relational organizing is all about, getting information and sharing it with others and getting others to join you to take action. Today, I'm asking you to join our efforts and ensure young voters make our voices heard. Become a leader in your community and download our relational organizing app at getempower.com/RTV-MI. Join Team Michigan to encourage family and friends to vote. We can't do this without you, and young adults will make up 40% of American voters in November. That's why we need you. Okay, so I told you the plan. Now I'm going to walk you through it one more time. If you're on your phone, grab your laptop. If you have your laptop, grab your phone and download this app again, getempowered.com, no spaces, .com/RTV-MI and hit enter. If you're tuning in from outside of Michigan, you can just download our general app at getempowered.com/RTV. Once you have the app, you download it, add 10 people, and talk to them about voting. Include your best friend and including that flaky friend that we all have, your mom and your aunt and your grandmother. Take 10 people that can reach better than any political ad or a Rock the Vote PSA can. So it's an amazing experience to be here with you all tonight as we are 42 days away. And now more than ever, we need all hands on deck. Thank you for March of Our Lives for being a platform for change amongst young people across the country to stand against gun violence. We are 42 days away from the most important election of our lifetime. Let's make it count. Follow us at Rock the Vote and let's continue to rock the vote. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Jasmine, for that wonderful introduction, and thank you so much to all of our representatives for introducing themselves. We are truly grateful for all the work you are doing and have already done, and we are so excited to speak with you. So now we will be starting off our group panel discussion. I would like to kick it off to Claire now to get us started with our first question.
All right. Our first question is for all of our panelists, but we can start with Jasmine. What inspired you to start organizing?
I've been an organizer since I was a little kid, and just seeing my parents and my grandparents work the polls as poll workers when they were first starting out for a long period of time. My grandmother was a fighter in the civil rights movement. So being in the spaces of organizing has been a deep passion of mine since I was a little girl. And now moving forward, when I see more women and more women of color and more young adults take action, that makes the pride and joy of my work, because we are the game changers and we are the ones who are going to be that change that we want to see. I'm very excited to be a part of this discussion to mobilize more young adults now than ever, because you guys have that power, and it is time for us to take control of that power and actually put it into action, not only when it comes to organizing, but when it comes to the polls and when it comes to you being a voice in your community. And for those who have kids and just trying to figure out ways to get involved, the biggest part of Rock the Vote is that we are including everyone. That means all of our young adults to be a part of the political process and make their voices heard.
Tina, we would love if you could go next.
Sure. What was the question again? I'm sorry. What brought me to organizing?
Yes.
Okay. So it was a complete accident. My daughter started kindergarten, and I had recently been fired from my job at a law firm because I was pregnant and I was like extremely sick every day. And so on my third day off of sick leave, my job called and told me that I was fired. So one, no paid sick time, right? That was the thing, being discriminated because I was pregnant. And so once my daughter started kindergarten, I had nothing else to do. So I was like that mom. I was at the school. I was like, what y'all doing? Y'all want pizza? I'll make y'all Easter baskets. Like I did all of the things. And from there, I was like, well, I joined the school's PTA, and we just started doing stuff inside of the school. Well, the stuff that I started doing inside of the school, I began taking outside of the school and putting it into the community. And the community was around the neighborhood of Focus Hope, which is Dexter and Davidson area of Detroit. And Jason, who is my mentor and one of my greatest friends now, reached out to me and was like, I want you to apply for this job for me. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I ain't doing nothing else, but I think I like Focus Hope. Let's give it a try. And so I applied for the job and I got it. And I worked at Focus Hope in community development for 2 years. Literally, it changed everything. I remember going to a training that my Molly from 4824 asked me to go to, and I was just like, I'm not going to a 3-day training on a weekend. Like, I'm just not doing that. But I was like, you know what? Molly doesn't send you the things you don't need to go to. So I called her back and I was like, fine, I'll go. And I got there and I remember hearing Art's voice. He was up in front of the room and he was sharing one of those stories that he shares about his younger days of being with his grandparents on the picket lines. And I'm just listening to him, but I'm also listening to the brilliance that was coming out of his mouth. From that day, I ended up working for Art at We the People. I also work at 482 Forward. And so, yeah, it was a complete accident. But, you know, accidents create change sometimes.
Great. Thank you so much. We would love if Brooke could go next.
So my organizing journey was definitely slow and steady. It started off, obviously, like I was born a Black woman, and from there, like the fight has always been. But I think for a lot of Gen Z, like getting involved via social media early on, like I considered myself like a feminist, like Instagrammer in middle school. And I really had no idea what I was doing or where I wanted to go or what activism really even was during that time. But drawing inspiration from all of the amazing women in my life, like my mom and my sister and my grandmother, my organizing ability grew and grew, especially during high school when I started entering spaces of like community service and activism in Detroit public schools. And from there, beginning to build spaces of my own for young people, especially Black and brown young people. And specifically DAM got started. It's a really sweet story because we actually were a group of young people from different places in Metro Detroit who came together to organize the Detroit March for Our Lives in 2018. And one of our co-founders, Harry, was a part of the original organizing group, which was a bunch of older white women from the suburbs who were trying to organize a march for Black and brown youth in Detroit. So obviously that didn't really work out so well. And he was in that organizing space and told them that either this march was going to be reflective of the population that it was trying to serve, or it wasn't going to be a march or an event at all. And from there, a lot of young organizers who I now consider my family joined the team, and we organized an amazing march. And we came back to the Cass Corridor Commons on Cass, right down the street, where we began organizing. And we sat down and we were like, well, where are we going to go from here? And the answer was that we didn't want to break up. We wanted to continue organizing together, and that's how DAM was born. And from there, we've done some amazing things. So definitely slow and steady wins the race, and always trust in your ability and sure that you have a solid team because they'll take you so far.
Thank you so much. Lastly, we would love if you could go, Brianna.
Yes. So, my organizing journey was, I wouldn't say confusing, but it wasn't always, black and white. So it was kind of like, I didn't really know that I even like to do things like this. It was kind of just, it started with being in Detroit Hills, Detroit. I was always like a little helping hand within my school. And, my mom works at a school as well. So I was always helping around there doing events and stuff for the community. But when I got to high school, we had this teacher, one of our adult coordinators, Sarita Darby. She was our teacher, and she kind of introduced us to this whole idea of healing circles, everybody being able to sit in one spot and share their stories, be open with each other. And that really kind of helped us to learn more about our classmates, our students, people who we see every day, to learn more about their struggles, things that they're going on, that they have going on at home, that they bring to class that people don't know about. And we kind of figured that these things, they all go hand in hand with each other, behavior, schoolwork, a lot of different things. And so after that, we kind of all decided that we would do this writing assignment where we put our stories into writing, and we all collaborated on a book called Forbidden Tears. So it's just a book of poems, short stories, different things that all talked about different experiences that happened in our lives. And we had a book launch and everything, and we just kind of, us and the rest of the members of the group, we were like, we like doing this. And so we got a request from like a school. It was like an elementary school, I believe. And she wanted to do the healing circles at her school with her students. And these students were much younger than us. So they were about maybe in sixth grade, I think, about that time. So a few of us went, and we just kind of like organized different groups, and we all sat and we listened to these students talk about these things that happened in their lives. And it amazed us that they were so young, but still so affected by all these things that were happening in their lives. And we felt that there needs to be an outlet or something to where students can feel like they aren't alone. A lot of times with situations, big situations like gun violence and things like that, students feel like they don't, or kids, anyone, they feel like they don't really have a voice in that. It's always, the adults have it. The adults are handling it, stay in a child's place, things like that. But a lot of times we don't really understand. We don't really realize that these situations are a child's place because they're affecting the children mostly. The children are affected by things like this more than anyone. So we decided that we wanted to keep moving forward with doing this. We wanted to keep having a place and a space for everyone to come together and just do different things, hold different events where kids felt, safe going to and having time to talk about their feelings, express their emotions and things like that. And so we put together an event last year, our first Healing Justice Gala. It was a very good experience for us, and we had different people just come and do different activities. We had performances, we had spoken word, we had a lot of different things, and we let students display their talents as well. We decided that their talent is definitely one way that they can release their trauma into. So after that kind of birthed the whole movement for us to do this healing hub thing where we have a safe space for kids to come and be able to do different things, be a part of organizations, organizing, being a part of different marches and things like that. being able to have resources that they can't get at home. We want to be able to provide for them. So yeah, that really kind of just pushed me into more of the organizing role. It was something that I felt deeply important to me because it affected me as well. So these things were something that I felt was important for everyone to be able to discuss and be a part of.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that, and I absolutely agree. Our next question is for Brianna as well. So, how do you think the effects of environmental racism and redlining through Detroit in the throughout the 20th century are still present today?
I think that it definitely shows there's a lot of code switching that happens within students. You know, it's like you go from being in one area of town where you grow up and everything, you pass one street and you're in a whole nother area. And it's like now I have to be this different person, put on this mask, be this person that I'm not, that I don't know how to be. And you know, it's kind of like you grow up so much with people telling you that you should act this way, act that way, be one way here, be another way there, and it confuses a lot of youth. It definitely confused me in my times. For a long time I didn't know who I was. You know, I'm this way in this setting, and then I come home and I'm this way in this setting, and then a lot of times it puts strains on your relationships that you make with people, your friends in your own community. It's kind of like, this is different for you to act this way, but you don't really know how to interact with them as well. So it's kind of it kind of definitely puts a strain on students and you being able to collaborate and move within their communities and their schools and things when they're learning so many different things and so many outside forces putting pressure on who they're supposed to be defined as a person and how they're supposed to act and things like that. And then the whole aspect of racism on top of that, them not even knowing how to take that or be familiar with it. A lot of students aren't even sure, or a lot of youth don't even know a lot at times that racist things are being done to them, which is what it is so sad that it's so common and it happens so much that you don't even realize that it's happening and that it's changing you as a person. And so it still happens today a lot, and it should be decreasing a lot more than it is increasing. So we want this issue to definitely be able to have youth understand the things that are happening and learn how to move through those things and become stronger within it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those. Those are all just so important, and I think that people really need to focus on that, definitely. So our next question is for Jasmine. How can issues like environmental racism, police brutality, and gun violence make it harder for people to vote?
When you think about storytelling, everyone has a story, and everyone's story is not the same. So a lot of our work that we're doing is to meet people where they are, to talk about these issues that matter to them most. We want it to be an opportunity to showcase that these things are actually happening. And for a lot of different communities, especially communities of color, it's happened for a long period of time. And in the wake of Black Lives Matter, particularly this summer with the death of George Floyd, we are seeing it now more than ever that young people, those who are shaping our political agenda for the future, have had enough. And it has to be one of those conversations that you have to be a listener in order for us to make the progress and be the change that we want to see. In the words of Representative John Lewis, being that good trouble, it has to have a listening ear behind it. And so when we're talking about issues, your issue and my issue can be totally two different issues. But the fact that the both of us are bringing things to the forefront, that is how we're able to make that change. And unfortunately, when people look at different area codes or backgrounds or where they grew up or level of education, they feel like they don't have a voice because of their circumstances. And that's definitely an unfortunate situation that needs to be addressed too. Because all of us here together, we're all doing this great work, and it's highlighting that everyone deserves a seat at the table, especially folks of communities of color and folks who have been disenfranchised for a long period of time. So it is definitely an unfortunate circumstance. But the great thing about it moving forward is that we are making that change. And I'm seeing that now more than ever, even if our in our line of work with Rock to Vote, I am seeing young adults, those who probably can't even vote yet, going into November, who are not 18, still having these passions and issues and like, hey, how can I be involved? Hey, how can I be a volunteer? And we're not turning them away. We're inviting everyone to this collective table, and it's different shades, it's different backgrounds, it's different educational experiences, it's different life experiences. And from there, we are able to build that voice for themselves. And as a Black woman, and especially a Black woman who votes every single election season, is definitely one of those things that I'm taking that my power to mobilize other people to do the same. To let people know, people like me particularly know, you're not in this fight by yourself. But the one thing that you can do is stand up and take action and not complain about it. So now that I'm seeing more younger adults, especially in the way of life events, 2020 has shut us all in different directions, but particularly when it comes to younger adults, those who have had to leave high school without graduation and college without graduation, those who had to leave their friends without saying goodbye for senior picnic day and senior like game day and senior prom. I was one of those seniors. I enjoyed that moment. My heart went out to those who had that moment taken away from them. And even for students who are going back and forth from college, 1 minute you're on campus for a week, and then a pandemic breaks out on campus, even worse. And now that you're back home. So it's definitely a matter of calling it how we see it. And the fact that we have young adults like yourselves who are taking that torch, you are the ones who are leading the agenda for the future. And so the fact that you guys are taking that stand head on, action first, it speaks volumes to our elected officials. It speaks volumes to our civic engagement groups. They are seeing you, they are hearing you, they are seeing that you are mobilizing rallies all across this nation. That is what democracy looks like when it's including everyone. And I encourage everyone, no matter your circumstance, I don't care if you're Black, white, purple, or red, you have a voice that needs to be heard. And in order for you to make that change, you have to speak up on it, and you have to hold those folks accountable, and you actually have to go out there and vote, not only for your presidential elections, but going all the way down your ballot when it comes to local and state, because you have the power to shape the political climate. And those are the conversations. It's hard to have, and it's hard to tell people when you are privileged, you don't have to worry about these issues, but you also have to identify those that have been disenfranchised for a long period of time that simply wants to be included into the process. And we have to invite those folks to the table. And that is what we're doing at Rock to Vote. We've been doing it for the past 30 years and continue being that voice. And even as a volunteer and as an individual by myself, I'm taking these same tools to engage with my family, my friends, my colleagues, my previous school friends, to know like we are all doing the same great work together, but it starts with activation first.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. That was truly so inspiring. This next question we have is for Brooke. How can the police prevent environmental injustices and gun violence? Or do you believe that the police should be defunded and that a different group of people should help prevent problems such as these?
I think that the police can prevent gun violence and environmental injustice by being defunded. I think that the resources and the funding that goes towards policing and incarceration, especially in Black and brown neighborhoods, in inner city neighborhoods, in places like Detroit, is ridiculous when you look at other issues that are affecting the people who live there and the populations who depend on funding. And I think that for people like us, all of these ideas, all of the things that we're organizing around intersect. And so in that way, police funding intersects with environmental injustice. And so for a city like Detroit or any major city, to take funding away from an institution that was built on harm and to reallocate those funds or reinstitute different things to help communities, then that's what needs to be done. Because a lot of the funding that goes towards police ends up in over-policing, ends in mass incarceration, ends in fear, and it ends in death for a lot of us. And so if that funding goes towards fixing pipes and water problems like in Detroit public schools like we had in 2018, if that funding goes towards paying off water bills for Detroiters because water shutoffs are so prevalent here, if that funding goes to community care and to community organizations that are doing harm prevention, then that's where we see actual change. We don't see change from policing, and we definitely don't see change from continuing to fund institutions that do us no good and in the end only do us harm. So I think that a lot of the solutions, and not even just one solution, because we know a lot of these issues have multiple solutions and go down multiple paths, but one big thing that we can do now and that we need elected officials to do is to work towards defunding institutions that no longer serve us and no longer serve us in the ways that they were made to serve us. And so that funding needs to be reallocated to specific community groups who are actually doing the work, who are actually from that community, who know that community and can support its people in the way that they need. So in that way, all of those things intersect and we can see some good change.
Thank you. Yes, definitely the intersections you pointed out there are really noticeable. So thank you so much. Our next question is for Tinu. What laws would you like to see passed relating to gun violence or police violence or environmental racism? Or do you think that these issues need to be addressed in deeper ways other than laws?
I'm glad that you asked the latter part to your question. Because I think for me, I'm always in a very weird space when it comes to politics, right? It's like we know that we have to go vote. Every election, shoot me, but every election is the biggest election of our lives, right? We always have to put all our manpower. We always have to do these things.
Dad, can you help me with this?
But when you really think about how the real work gets lost, when we have to focus so much on elections, I think it's more so of the latter. I think it's a both and. I don't think an election is never going to get us to where we're trying to go. It is an engine to help us get to where we're going. And the more that people think that that's what's going to get us there, the more we fail ourselves because we have to do all of the work outside of that. We have to, yes, get the politicians to do their fucking jobs, right? But we got to be the game changers. I think I've heard it a few times on this call. We have to be the changes that we want to see. And so we have to begin to rely on ourselves and the resources that we have and understand that everybody in our communities are resources and that everything that we have together, even in this little 6-box collective right here, we have amazing resources and tools and knowledge, and we have to begin to use those. So I think I answered your question, but the elections ain't it. We are. And that's an added bonus that we got to use.
Thank you so much. This next question is for all of our panelists, but we would love to start off with Brianna. What can people do right now to help with the problems we discussed earlier in terms of the upcoming election?
Well, of course, everyone is, obviously supposed to vote, but like Tinu said, it's definitely about doing other things as well, being a part of the change. We can vote on so many other things other than just this part. We should definitely start being able to put our manpower behind doing other things as well in the community to make sure that everybody upholds the fact that these changes happen. For us to start, I definitely think we should start throwing our support in the right places because, of course, as everyone knows, the Black vote Black people, we are one of the biggest parts of voting and other things, and that's why, you know, politicians and everything, they always want to try to get on our side, want to know what we know, things like that, what do we want. So we definitely need to start putting, you know, our support in places where we think that they're going to. We need to motivate people to, you know, just thinking that nothing is going to change. A lot of people that I meet, a lot of youth that I meet, they think that there's nothing that we can do. Things are always going to be messed up. That's honestly just not true. You know, it's just we need to start putting the support and things that we believe in. We need to start backing those things up. Of course, like I said, just voting in usual, and we need more educated on the whole spectrum of vote, and like that. We need to be sure that we know about everyone that we're voting for, everything that they're for, things that we need to know that they're going to really support us in doing. We need to know, okay, well, what is their motive behind this that they have for us? What is it going to do to actually help us be better? What is it going to do to help us prevent less support? It could definitely show a lot of change.
Definitely. Yeah. Do any of you have any other thoughts in terms of that? Tinu, do you want to share? In terms of just what we can do, what young people now or anybody can do?
Yeah, I think when it comes to what we can do, it's actually putting all of the and coming from an organizer, this is gonna sound crazy, right? Because there are a few things as organizers that are just standard across the board. It's like we have meetings, we do community events, all of this stuff, right? All that shit need to stop. How you asking people the same survey questions? How you asking people to do the same shit over and over, but you never show people what is possible? Like, if 2020 has showed us anything, is that reimagining and showing people what is possible is what our work is. It's not about getting people to help us do the work. We ain't got time for that. It's too hard to help people understand how to do the work, especially when you have to help people understand how to decolonize their minds, which we all as organizers, we have the tools, we have the resources, and we're still decolonizing our minds. So how do we expect the people in our communities who are up against the world to do these things that we do on a daily basis? No, we have to stop holding these meetings. We gotta stop holding these pointless ass meetings. Let me say that, because we still need some meetings. But we gotta start doing the work. Not having meetings about what's possible. No, that's not going to get us to where we're trying to go. And so it's like, I think I give the example of my daughter went to Joy Preparatory Academy here in Detroit. There was no art. There was no music. There was nothing. But I'm one resourceful ass mama, okay? And because I worked for Focus Hope, I called Alexa upstairs. Alexa, we run the Excel program. Let us pay you at Joy Prep to come do this here. That is how we make change. We have too many tools. We have too many resources to just be constantly talking about what we can do. It's our job as organizers to show people what we can do, and then everybody else will come along. So that's what I think.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that. Jasmine, we would love if you could go next.
Yes, definitely. You're taking the first action right now. You're here. You're in this moment. You are looking at ways of how to be involved more. And that's been the biggest question this year anyway, because we can't do things physically or actually be in the same place at the same time. So what does that look like? You're here. As far as like civic engagement spaces, definitely want to be involved in your community and express to have your voices heard. Rock the Vote, we have our relational organizing program where we do calls to actions, and every day we're doing a new call to action to mobilize young adults across the country to share with their family and friends this very important information when it comes to the political process and what that looks like in November. And that is also getempowered.com/RTV-MI for Michigan. And I'm asking that call to action for you to join our efforts. Having young leaders mobilize in political power, you are making your voices heard and you are showing up. You are showing up for what is the most important election of our lifetime, as we stated before, and it's real this time. It was said a few times before, but it's definitely a real statement going into November. And I also think moving forward, don't stop in November. Like the biggest problem that we face is that, election season is over, so my work is done. No, that's not the goal. The goal is to continue the work and to continue to progress in your communities to make it better. When it comes to George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, don't stop because you don't hear another hashtag that hasn't been around in a couple of months. No, you want to continue making it known that these issues are not right, and that is how we're able to make the change. So I'm asking you as another call to action is to don't stop. If you are passionate about issues, whether it's climate change and whether it's gun violence, whether it's police brutality, stand up for what you believe in and don't stop. And don't let it be a big thing, because the thing that irks me the most is that people come together in a national situation when something really big is happening. It's like, okay, now we have to mourn all over again. We have to cry all over again. We have to be vulnerable all over again when people have been fed up over the same scenario for many, many years. So what does that look like? That means we keep putting the gas on that engine. That means you show up for your community. You bring 5 friends, 3 of your friends to show up too. That's how we're able to build the relational aspect of it when it comes to making our voices heard. It's not just for me. It's not just for you. It's about our communities. It's about our friends and their families. It's about our classmates and their families. Educating people on issues that matter to you, and then also being a listener for them to share what issues matter to them. That is how we're able to organize and continue the organizing part. And having these conversations, it can't just be on a presidential election year. It has to be a conversation every day to showcase that, hey, we are tired. That's like if you have a bully at school, the first 3 days, you let them take your lunch money. You let them, do whatever. On that 4th day, it's a spark that came up under you. Like, you know what? I had enough with this bully. I'm coming in to let them know you're not taking my lunch money today. You're not taking that power from me. And so I want people to be energized. And I know the year sucks. We all went through life and it sucks. But we want to take that emotion and put it into activation. And that means you are being a voice in your community and bringing on 3 people to do the same. Why? Because we all have stories that need to be heard, and we have to be given the opportunity to do just that. And so I encourage you all to do the same, not just the next 42 days of the election, but after November 4th, November 5th, November 6th, until you guys get that art department at your school, until you guys get what you need for your community, that art center or that community center. You make that change and you be what it needs to be. And I'm going to keep continuing to say it. It's good trouble. And it's okay when you want to fight for your community, to fight for better change. It's always good to be in good trouble.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. So lastly, we would love if you could say something about this as well, Brooke.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with pretty much everything that's been said. I think there are a lot of things that we can do, but what we need to just start doing now is looking at this as not only we have to vote, but we have to organize, and voting comes under the umbrella of organizing, because electoral politics is not going to liberate me. It's not going to liberate my community. It's not going to liberate any of us. The next president is not going to fight for Detroit in the ways that we are fighting for Detroit right now. So we need to understand something that one of my good friends, Andrea Gonzalez, always says, is that voting is a tool in our toolbox of justice, but it cannot be the only tool that we're using. We have a toolbox for a reason. We have different avenues for a reason, and we can all organize and activate ourselves in one way or another. But the problem is that we can't do nothing, and we can't only do one thing, which is vote. We have to continue to organize in ways that push the boundaries. We have to be in tune with ourselves and our communities. Like Tinu said, like her shirt reads, we have to trust in Black radicals. And where does that lead us? Who is leading this movement, and where are they leading us to? We have to make sure that we're doing everything that we can, because there are so many of us who are already putting our lives on the line, who are already pushing ourselves to the extent past that limit, and we need others to join us. So what can you do? Can you donate? If you can donate, if you have the financial means to donate, then do so. Donate to Black radical organizations, donate to grassroots organizations. If you can share something on social media, do it. But don't just sign a petition and donate. Get into the streets with these organizations, get into the meeting rooms with these organizations, and make sure that you're fighting not just for a future for yourself, or like Jasmine said, for the next 42 days, but you're fighting for the rest of your life, and you're fighting for all of the lives who have already been fighting. And so what happens now is a really, really big question. And I know it scares a lot of people, but so many Black activists, authors, amazing people who have sacrificed their lives to understanding what comes next. And we have to trust in them, and we have to trust in ourselves. And so we're going to continue to answer that question, but we can't sit on the sidelines and try to figure it out. Like there's literally no more waiting. Like so many of us are already not waiting, that we need the rest of the people who are sitting on the sidelines to join us in our organizing work, and that organizing work not just in showing up to the polls, but showing up for one another, showing up for our schools, for our community centers, and overall understanding that liberation will come from ourselves, and it will come from the power of the people and not from any politician or any election. So let's organize ourselves in a broader sense, in a broader means, and continue doing that past these 42 days, past what people consider to be the hype of Black Lives Matter. Let's do that past the end of the year, because once 2021 ends, all of the things that happened in 2020 don't just disappear. So we have to continue to organize in deep, meaningful ways with one another.
Thank you all so much for being a part of our panel today. It was amazing and so inspiring to hear all of your viewpoints on so many various issues. And it is so important that we have more conversations on topics like these. Now, I will be passing it off to Claire, who will be talking about our voter registration drive.
So obviously we've been talking a lot tonight about the importance of voting as one of many ways to create super important, meaningful change. And so right now, March for Our Lives Michigan is holding a voter registration drive, and our goal is to register 450 people to vote before the end of tonight. So we can accomplish this really easily if everybody who's watching this reaches out to 5 people they know who are not registered to vote and sends them to this link, theciviccenter.org/MFOLMI. So again, that is the Civic Center, CIVICS.org/MFOLMI. Thank you so much in advance for your help, because as we've discussed tonight, that is a really important way, although not the only way, that we need to bring about change.
I miss you.